So the waiting is over here in the Dom Sportova Arena on Ice Hockey UK TV in association with McDonald's. We will preview all the action. It's time for this talking to stop. It's time for the final preparations to be fine-tuned. GB will have one practice session today and then, of course, their first game. This barn will be packed come 7 o'clock UK time tonight. That's 8 o'clock here in Zagreb. It will be full of passionate Croatian supporters and, of course, the GB Barmy Army making lots of noise as ever. We're going to preview the game with some of the key personnel very shortly. But let's have a look now. We're at the high level here. We're at the press level where the cameras are, and you can see them just in front of me. Just down here will be where some of the other broadcasters, but I'm going to take you down to the British broadcasters because we are lucky enough to have Aaron Murphy and Paul Adey out for Premier Sports, and of course Seth Bennett for the BBC. Seth will commentate on the games for BBC online. This game will be online. Some in the future will be on 5 Live Sports Extra. Hi Seth, how you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks Chris. Just trying to get everything in place ahead of this first game. It's not been as simple as some other tournaments, but I think we're just about there.
What are Great Britain's chances, do you think? Are you optimistic?
Yeah, you've got to be optimistic. They're the second seed team within this tournament, and you've got to feel that they can do this. However, it's been a long time since GB have last been promoted, so do they have that feeling? When they go into those games where they know they've got to win, traditionally, they haven't been able to do it. We look at last year. They just needed a point against Lithuania. It didn't happen. So for me, that's the big question mark. How are they going to respond in this first game against Croatia? This barn's going to be packed tonight. It's going to be an intense atmosphere. Are they going to handle that better than the Croatians? If they do, they'll win the game. The other side of that, when it comes towards the end of the tournament, they may need their biggest performance against Ukraine. Are they still going to be fit enough? Are they still going to be healthy enough at that point to have enough in the tank to be able to get the goals they need?
Dave, just have a look at some of the equipment here that obviously Seth has with him. Plenty of equipment for a broadcaster that you have to do and bring with you. What sort of things have you been doing in the last 24 hours or maybe more to prepare for this game?
We're sitting here waiting for them to figure out whether we're going to use ISDN or whether we're going to use internet-based broadcasting mode, and I think that's the way we're going to have to go for this one, which it's been a real test because all of a sudden you have to get creative about how you're going to do things. Other than that, though, it's just looking through the teams, looking through all of the past tournaments when they've met one another. I was back in Slovenia in 2001 when GB absolutely pumped. Paul Adey was playing in that game where they pumped Croatia by 10 goals to 1, and that was a tournament that ended in real controversy at the end. I remember after one of the games, the Slovenian press came in and just hammered Chris McSorley, claimed he was a cheat, claimed that he paid off the other team, and all this kind of stuff. I mean, it was incredibly intense. But also, you look back at the rivalry between Croatia and GB, and GB have had the better side of things over the years. They're 4-1 since 2000, and they've got to take a little bit of that. Though Croatian hockey has changed so much. It was, for all intents and purposes, back in the early 2000s, a bit of a beer league. It was a fun place to come and play, but not much more than that. The addition of the KHL here has changed absolutely everything. Okay, they're not one of the strongest teams in the KHL at this stage, but they've got some very good players playing here, and that's had a trickle-down effect, and there's a couple of guys on this Croatian team that have played an awful lot of KHL games.
There you go, that's Seth Bennett. He'll be commentating on the BBC website, and we'll put all the links on Twitter and on Ice Hockey UK. And as I say, games later in the week on BBC 5 Live Sports Extra. On Premier Sports, all the games will be live, apart from this first one. Delayed coverage on this one. And on that commentary team is Aaron Murphy and Paul Adey. And I'm going to have a word with Paul first of all. Welcome, Paul, the former GB player, of course. Paul, what sort of shape do you think GB are in as a nation at the moment, and how can they do at this tournament?
Well, I think we can do really well at the tournament. It looks like they got most of the players, barring maybe Murphy. I think they have the whole full team, and they have a really good team. And, they're going to have a couple of tough games. The first one against Croatia is always going to be tough, playing against the home team and the big crowd in here. But, the GB players have all played in big finals, so I don't think that pressure is going to rattle them too much. And through the middle games, I think they should win those. And then the final game against the Ukraine, I think, could be the deciding game. So overall, I think they have a great chance. The addition of Weber as an assistant coach will help also bring a little more experience to the table there. And I'm really positive about the tournament. I think they're going to do really well.
What's going to be their key? If they're going to succeed, what do they have to do particularly well?
Well, I think it's always play as a team. They don't normally get a lot of games together, GB, but this year they're a bit fortunate because they had the Olympic qualifying, so I think they'll be better prepared. Because normally you come into these tournaments, as you know, a week of training and you jump on the ice. So it usually takes Great Britain a couple of games to get going. But this year, with the extra preparation, I think they'll start really well.
And who do you think can be the key men out of the roster for GB?
Well, I mean, I like the addition of Mosey. I think with his speed, he can be like an unknown quantity in this tournament, and the other teams are going to be a bit surprised by his speed, and I think he can make a little bit of a difference out there. And they have great players right through the lineup. I mean, I think O'Connor, with his skating ability, also can be a key player for the team. And Bounds in net, I mean, he's had a great season. I think always your goalie. You need your goalie to play big, and I think Bounds is due for a big tournament here.
Thank you. Enjoy the tournament, Paul. Aaron Murphy. Hi, Aaron. Where do the biggest threats come across the other teams for GB? Who are they going to have to, do you think, watch out for?
We were just talking about that because if you remember last year, it came down to the last game against Lithuania, hoping for gold and promotion, and Mantis Armalis, who plays in the Swedish Hockey League, made 35, 36 saves there. So you never know where the threat's going to come from. Anything can happen at this level. All these teams believe they can win, but I do believe, and Paul and I were talking about this, they've got to weather a storm against the hosts in front of a sold-out Dom Sportova. That first 10 minutes might be intense, but you want to survive that. They should beat Croatia. Croatia are missing some important players. The Ukraine are the highest-ranked team in the tournament. But they're missing some key cogs. They're giving some young players. I think they got the youngest player in the tournament on their roster. So it could be the bookend, right? It could be the first game and the last game. They should beat Romania. They should beat Estonia. Lithuania don't have Mantis Armalis here, the Swedish Hockey League goaltender for Djurgården. So they're a little bit weaker than they were last year. And as Paul said, this is the strongest GB lineup. There's no one missing. You know, in Cortina there was no Dowd, no Farmer, no Weaver. Those guys are here. So I think top to bottom, as I was looking over the rosters the last few days, GB are looking pretty good.
You've been here 24 hours or so now. What have you thought to the setup as a whole? It's an impressive venue to work in. It's
a fantastic venue, and our commentary position, if folks at home can see, I mean, we're Seth and us, we're right where we want to be. It's got a real old hockey barn feel, doesn't it? I mean, you got the low ceiling. We were joking about the lights and the scoreboard there. It's a beautiful barn. It's going to be rocking for the Croatia game and hopefully for the other games. I'm also impressed with the IIHF people who have been so helpful, as they always are, and it always helps when you've got a little bit of extra info at your fingertips. So I think the setup is fantastic, and we're geared for a great tournament.
Okay, enjoy the tournament, guys. That's all that the base is covered, as I say, on the BBC Sport website today. And this game on Premier Sports is delayed coverage, and then all four of the other ones will be live with Aaron Murphy and Paul Adey. Well, let's now turn our attentions to the GB camp. In a moment, Ashley, Tait and Russell Cowley, because they've played in this arena before, and they have a fascinating interview with Seth Bennett. But one of the most important, if not the important man for GB, is the man who leads them, and that's the head coach, Pete Russell. He's now going into his third tournament, his second World Championship, and I sat down with him to get his views ahead of the big first game. Pete Russell, this is your second World Championship tournament as GB head coach, your third tournament. You had the Olympic pre-qualifiers in Cortina. It just feels like this one, the preparation has gone so well in terms of the camp, the games against Poland. Do you feel, as a coaching staff, you're in a good position going into your first game?
Of course, yeah. I think with great preparation, and obviously the team's been together for a time now, so there's a kind of a period, there's a core of players now, and when they come back, we're adding things and we're making sure we're getting better at everything we do. So it's been a really good feeling, yeah, really good.
How have they grown, do you think, as a team, all the way back from when you first had them together, a week last Wednesday or so, or nearly 2 weeks ago, isn't it, basically, when you're in Coventry for the camp? Have you seen them grow as a team? They've got smaller, obviously.
Yeah, I think I think the biggest thing is, I wonder what you're saying, they're getting smaller. I think the biggest thing is they're getting used to everything, the way we're going to play. They're getting the habits, they're getting used to line mates. I think the special teams is getting there. It's harder in practice to always work in special teams. It never really just happens. The PK know what you're going to do, and it's been little parts like that. But today we're going to find out.
They're a tight-knit group of guys as well, and how important is that as coaching staff to see like a tight-knit group of guys? That must be important.
Yeah, I think the trust factor and the respect factor is important. I think they've got that in abundance, and I think that's only going to help them when we have to face adversity again or something like that, and I'm sure it's going to pull us right through. I think the experience of last year, the experience of Italy, I think, taught us all things.
In terms of adversity, you were behind a lot in that tournament in the World Championship, and not maybe against Lithuania, but in other games you came through, and in the past GB had not been able to do that. Why do you think they were able to do that. What's the difference between the GB side in the last couple of years?
Well, I think we constantly say that it's never done till it's done, and we've got that attitude just now, and I think it's the type of game anything can happen. And I think that shows the character they have. I think they have a strong belief that, I think last year is still hurting people.
How much did it hurt you as head coach that you were 7 minutes from goal and ended with a silver?
Yeah, it's hard to take. You just wish you could have done some things a little bit different, or could you have changed something, or could you use somebody a little bit more? And the bottom line was we came up against a really good goalie who was just signed the NHL last week, and he stopped us, and we have to move on from that. But I'm sure if we get in that situation this year, we'll find a way through.
Does it make any extra determined this year? Is it something that you can use for motivation?
No, I don't think so. I think, I've seen everybody skate, and we know we're a good team. We think we're a good team. We're deep, and we're ready.
Where are your biggest threats in this tournament, do you think?
Well, I think the first game's always a hard game. There's a lot of nerves. You're playing the home nation. They're going to be a good team. They still get quality players that play in quality leagues, and they're going to be tough to play against. And I think all the other games are banana skins. There's no bad teams here. They can all skate. There's some really skilled players. And then you got the last game when you get to it with the Ukrainians coming down from the pool above. They've got a big history as a hockey nation. But we're worrying about Great Britain just now. And then we'll look at things we need to talk about to the team about the other teams, and we'll see what we need to add things. But we just want to get our game right just now.
And how excited are you for Croatia in the first game tonight in that barn, which will probably be packed? Are the pulses racing already?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it because you train, and you don't really play as much. And I think the guys are ready to play again. I think the Poland games, the first game, I think was tough. We made a lot of mistakes, but we sorted that. The D zone get better, and we're transitioning a lot better. And I think in the Sunday night against Poland, I would say we were the better team for a lot of that game, and it proved we can play against teams of a higher level, and it proves how disciplined we can be. And that'll be a big thing tonight. We've got to be disciplined. We know it's going to be tough. There's going to be a big atmosphere. We know they're going to come out for it. They're at home, and we've just got to be smart, stay in the game, work our way into the game, make sure we take our chances, and make sure we take care of things on our own end.
Before this tournament starts, let's go back in time. Let's look back at the last time Great Britain played here in a World Championship, 2003. Russ, for you, it was your tournament debut. Does it bring back big memories coming back here?
Yeah, it does. It obviously seems like a lifetime ago, which I guess it kind of was. But no, it was a good experience for me, and I enjoyed it, and I actually really enjoy the place, and there are things that I remember, so it's nice to kind of come back.
What do you remember about him, Ash, 13 years ago?
Fresh-faced, a little bit more on top. I didn't, but no, it was kind of a. Russ was quiet, as anybody is on their first trip. You're kind of always quiet and just feeling the ground and see kind of how the land lies with the boys, and you don't get too involved. You make sure you get your head down and you work hard, and that's what he did.
And it was a Chris McSorley team, wasn't it, at the time? What was he like to play for?
He was strict. I remember him blowing a drill down and yelling at me. I think we talked about that a couple of times, but I obviously only did one, actually two. No, it was the next year he did Norway as well, didn't he? So I had two tournaments under him, and you know what, he was firm, and he had his ways of coaching, and obviously Ash is, like I say, I only had two, and Ash had more with him, so he might have more to say, but I just remember him being quite strict.
Was he a coach that could be quite intimidating at times?
Oh yeah, I was at the back end of his version of Alex Ferguson's hairdryer, if you like, and myself, and I think the tournament was in Slovenia at this particular one, and myself and John Weaver were on the penalty kill, and we got scored on, and he wasn't too happy with how we went about it, and he proceeded to let us know. So it was, it wasn't a great experience at that moment.
When you look around this rink, has it changed much in the last 13 years?
I don't think it has. I said it's kind of it's kind of spit and sawdust, a bit rough around the edges, but I remember the atmosphere against Croatia was unbelievable, and I don't expect it to be any different tomorrow.
The game against Croatia, what was it like, the atmosphere?
I guess it's any time that you're in a country and you're playing the host team, it's always loud, and obviously you know what, there's fans against you. I mean, I've got to say that we always have, other than the host nation, we actually have the best following. So they get noisy and they sometimes help us, but I mean, I would imagine this place is going to be electric on tomorrow's game.
And when you have those games, because in reality that was basically a relegation playoff, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean it was a must win, and probably had a few too many of those must wins at the wrong end of the table. But it was a game we were expected to win, and I think in the end it was probably 6 or 7-1 or something like that, and it kept us in the group, and up until they split the division and stuff, we stayed there. So hopefully we can get out of this group and up to the next.
Do you like it when you come into that atmosphere where there's flares in the stands and the fans are all screaming and shouting?
I think so. I mean, that's why it's kind of one of those, you love to play in full arenas, and you know, there's nothing worse than 18 people in the rink when you're playing. There's no atmosphere. You've kind of got to get yourself up for it and make your own noise. And when it's full and there's flares and there's chanting and it's kind of chaotic, and it can be intimidating, but it's also, you can kind of draw from that energy as well.
How different are you as a player, Russ, to what you were back then?
I think the biggest thing for me is probably just experience. As you get older, it's, you know, you obviously learn off the people that are older, and
that's still Ash.
that is very much still Ash. And I think that it is hard for me to explain, but like I say, when I talk about experience, it's about making certain plays at right times and things like that. And then obviously for me, now I'm obviously a bit older, it's about me maybe trying to help out some of the younger players that are with us. And I think the faces that we have, I think Ash will agree, a majority of us have been together for quite a while, and I think that we have a really good group, and that's one of the differences that it's been in the last few years is the group that we have is quite tight-knit, and that makes the difference. So I think we have a lot of experience. But yeah, I'd say just as you get older, the experience helps you in different situations to know what decisions you need to make in certain situations.
The pair of you potentially could be playing with your line mate in Coventry, Ross Venus. He's somebody that you've seen both coming through the ranks from when he was a spotty little teenager to what he is now. How much pride do you have, though, seeing him out on the ice with Great Britain?
I think that's, we have to stop bringing youngsters through, and V's had a really good year. He deserves to be here, and hopefully he's going to get his chance. And it's one of those, he, as Russ said, there's older players that he looked to, and I used to be the same, and now, Ross is the same. If he's not sure, he's not scared to ask a question, he's willing to learn, and he puts the time in practice.
And does it help the fact that you two have been able to help him through a little bit in some respects? It's just like a normal game for him, isn't it?
I think so. I think I felt that in Italy the first game we played as a line, and there's just the familiarity straight away, and it probably helped him be a little more calm about the situation, and he played his normal game, and I think he's going to do the same here, and there's kind of hopefully a bright future at national team level for him.
12 months ago you were probably sunbathing. You were very much a part of what was going on in Eindhoven. That first game against Croatia, it set the tone, didn't it?
It did. It obviously had to, and I know we got a couple late ones, and to be honest, every game to the tournament for us was tight. But I think once we'd done the job against Croatia, I think that gave us a little bit of belief going forward. And then obviously, the last hurdle we sort of fell. But again, when I talk about experience, there's a lot of the group that was here last year, obviously here this year, and you learn from that, and that's what I mean when I say experience. That taking that into this tournament, it's, we felt that last year, and it's about doing one better this year.
He scored 4 in his last 11 internationals. Some record, isn't it, for us?
Not bad going.
What about your last international goal, though? Do you remember it?
Yeah, it was on the power play against Italy in Cortina. Just kind of a tip on the power play, which the cliche is they don't ask how, they ask how many, and it was just one of those right place at the right time kind of things.
Is that something that you've still got to contribute? Because you're somebody whose game has changed massively as you've got older. The defensive part is now what you specialise in. But do you still feel offensively you've got a role to play here?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we'll see what happens in games, but there's been some power play time in practice, and I like to think I'm fairly flexible and I can play that role if needs be. And I think we've got guys who are shoo-ins for top sixes. We've got guys who know that defensively that's their role, and there's a few guys here who can play parts in both. So hopefully I'm one of those.
Is it now or never for this group. You look at Ash, he's at the back end. You look at Jonathan Weaver, another player who's getting up there. You've already retired once, Russ.
I've retired about 10 times according to Sims, haven't I?
But in terms of this group of players, you know, the last promotion was the best part of, what, 23 years ago. You've not had one since then. You've had one relegation. Is now the time?
I think every year you'd probably say now's the time, because you never know what tomorrow's going to bring, or next season, or the season after that. You never know. I've been unfortunate to miss, I think, about 3. A couple through injury, and one I wasn't picked. So you don't know what's going to happen in the future. And the bottom line is, I think, you know, for me personally, and the way I've thought about this, is could well be my last. And of course, you want to go out on a high and win.
Who's the key man for success?
I think Bouncy, just goaltending in general. You don't get good goaltending in these tournaments. You don't get the wins, and I think he's been solid for Cardiff all year, and hopefully he brings that form here as well.
So it is time now for the talking to stop. In a few hours from now, these seats will be full of the GB Barmy Army. In fact, they probably won't be sitting. They'll be standing, they'll be stamping, they'll be cheering, they'll be screaming, as they always do. And this rink will be full. It's going to be a battle between the noisy Croatian fans, I'm sure, and the GB Barmy Army. We have all bases covered for you back home or wherever you are going to follow GB from. This game tonight on the BBC Sport website. You'll see the links there, and on the Ice Hockey UK website. We'll tweet them out. Seth Bennett will be joined by guests, including Andy Buxton, the GB General Manager, and Andy French, General Secretary of Ice Hockey UK. Aaron Murphy and Paul Adey will bring you the game delayed. This one, delayed coverage on Premier Sports. The other 4 will be live. And you can follow our Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. Just search for us with GB Ice Hockey and you will find us, and we'll be giving you all the behind the scenes. And of course, Ice Hockey UK TV will bring you all the footage. And not long after the game, you'll be able to see the goals and the reaction on Ice Hockey UK TV. That's about it. Cross your fingers for a good start, but we will see you very shortly on Ice Hockey UK TV in association with McDonald's.